I was excited. I was thinking that I would be a part of the solution and not part of the problem of the drugs that were ridding the black community, my community. And I felt that it was an opportunity for me to have some active intervention to curtail this problem. So I began my life as an undercover agent. Um, we go to this undercover office. We're given a section in the office. I was the only black female in the entire office at the time. And my particular team, this task force that was created, I was the only black female on the team. Um, my boss was Andy DeBree, male white, and he was from the Sheriff's Police Department. And there was a big issue that the Sheriff's Police had with this unit being created because they were union and they were fighting fighting the sheriff to dismantle this task force because the task force was created of all new um, individuals. We all, maybe some had some previous police experience from other police agencies, but we all were new to the sheriff's police. They created specialized badges for us, and there was just a huge fight because of our existence. So, in the police academy, they came to us and they let us know that this task force would have two parts, the overt and the covert part. And they were going to be letting us know who would be undercover and who would be in the overt part of the task force. And overt means that people would know you're police, you'll be identified as a police, you would, have your badge and your gun and be in police gear. And the undercover units, no one would know. You would just be just like a regular civilian. So no one would know that you would be undercover. And so they came to me and they said that we want you to be an undercover part of the unit. And I'm like, okay. And so my career begins. And no one ever told me what discrimination was or what to expect or not to expect. Or I just heard conversations of my grandparents, and it would always be white people this and white people that, and this happened and that happened. They had their own experiences, but no one ever said, like, if you are feeling this way and you observe treatment being given to others and not to you, that this is what discrimination is. If you're being talked to and things are being said to you in a certain way, in a certain manner, that this is what it is. I had no clue. I just knew that things were different for me. There was a difference made between me and my male white counterparts from day one, from the issuing of cars. They gave us brand new cars, but I was the only one with manual windows and manual doors. And you might not think that that's a big deal, and I would be ungrateful getting a brand new car with manual windows and manual doors. But when you're doing drug deals and you're out on the street, it's a matter of seconds. Gunfights take seconds. And so when you're out and you need to pull up on someone, it takes time to roll down a window, more time than it does to hit a button and the window come down electronically. You do your exchange and you pull off. It takes time to unlock doors and lock doors when they're manual and they're not manual, they're automatic. And these seconds make a difference when you're in these heightened um, dangerous situations dealing with nefarious characters who have the whole entire neighborhood watching you or the whole entire community watching you, it makes a difference. So it became a question in my head like, something isn't right. But I loved my job. I loved having the access and the freedom and doing what I did, being in the environment that I was growing up, and you're gonna pay me for it? Oh yeah, I can do this. Yes, that I could do. Yes. And moving on, things would just I would just notice different things. My male white partners, they got specialized training that I wasn't even made aware of until after the fact. They were offered opportunities for overtime and specialized um, units, and I wasn't made aware of it. I wasn't given that opportunity. And of course, being very vocal about it, then the responses that I got back was crazy. Like, oh, you wouldn't have wanted to go there. Oh, we didn't think you were interested, this, that, and the other. Interested in getting overtime, getting specialized training on certain equipment, our van, our surveillance van, educational training and opportunities. Yeah, I'm interested. So my supervisor then began to get promoted through the ranks at the undercover office. And he becomes emboldened with his racism. Our team dynamics began to change as our supervisor moved on. That left the senior position open on our team, and they always had a senior officer on our team just to either supervise or to aid and assist us. Then they began to rotate some of the sheriff's police into our team so they could get undercover experience. And one of the team members that came was John Lewis, JD Lewis, male black, finally. And he used to say to me all the time, he said, you never know when you have a case, always document. And they used to give us these yearly planners every year. And so I would document everything every day in my planner. And as Andy DeVries began to get promoted within the undercover office, he began to become more bolden with his racism. And so JD and I would be in a section of the office just going over things, having conversation, and he would walk up to us and say, one time he said to us, more black men need to beat their black women to keep them in their place, and then walk off. So JD and I would just look at each other, and JD would always say, you know, you should document everything. You never know when you have a case. Now, I'm not thinking anything, but we need to whoop his ass. Who the fuck does he think he is? And JD was like, no, you don't need to address, he's ignorant. You don't need to address anything. Just keep documenting. You never know when you have a case. Another time, Andy DeVries would walk up. Someone had brought their canine, their police canine dog to our office. Sweet dog. And I grew up with pets. So I asked the officer, is it okay to approach? And he's like, yeah, he's friendly. So I'm talking to the dog. I'm petting the dog. JD is there. And Andy DeVries walks up again and he's like, be careful. The dog doesn't like black people. So JD and I look at each other again and we just shake our head. But I'm documenting all of this, going through every day, every week, every month. We had our office meeting um, one time, and Andy DeVries began to address all of the officers and began to explain that there are not a lot of blacks in the unit because the blacks don't know how to buy drugs. Mind you, I was the top performing officer in the entire office, and this is what I grew up with. And we were in predominantly black towns doing drug enforcement, but black people don't know how to buy drugs, and that's why we don't have sufficient black agents. And so, the importance of having black agents doing drug intervention in all black towns is that my male white counterparts couldn't get close. So I ended up going solo into a lot of establishments, into a lot of drug houses, into a lot of drug places by myself. And they would have to be blocks away in order not to blow the deal, because whenever in these black towns black people saw white people, they would immediately assume that they were the police and then start hollering out 50 50 and sending the signal through the neighborhood to shut down the drug operations because the police were in the neighborhood. So it is important for the safety of everyone to have a sufficient representation of black people in these all black towns. And that was an issue that JD and myself brought up frequently. So we ended up working more so together on a lot of cases and a lot of deals because we were black. And it would be feasible for a female to be accompanied by a black male than it would a white male going in anywhere. So, continuing on, the white officers gained a lot of specialized training and they began to transfer to the overt part of the team and then began to get on the sheriff's police as sheriff's police officers and had the union in union positions. And so I found this out just observing. Um, I then experienced having a male Hispanic supervisor from the sheriff's police, Fred Guerra, and eventually, sometime after Fred became our supervisor, his brother Frank Guerra, who was with the state police, became a part of our unit as well. And they are blood brothers. And during my tenure there, Frank got promoted and became Fred's supervisor. So they have direct family reporting directly to each other. And unfortunately for them, they were two of the most racist Hispanic officers that anyone could imagine. And I began to, again, have difficulty. They would put the kibosh on my deals. I would have major kilo deals in the works. And they decided they had this club within the office called the Kilo Club. And all of the Hispanic officers were a part of the Kilo Club, and nobody had an awareness but these officers that they had developed this Kilo Club. So anytime that I got close to buying kilos, they didn't want me in that club. They didn't want me to have that recognition. They would put the kibosh on my deals. And then they would speak in Spanish a lot. And I have an acute I'm able to pick up on languages even though I don't speak the language, but I'm able to understand what they're saying. And they began to call me a nigger frequently, every day, all day, as much as they could, but in Spanish. And they didn't think that I knew. So anytime that I would try to put anything together, again, being the top performer in the office, they would try to put the kibosh on it. So I ended up having to fight where my male white counterparts, they were given leads and given opportunities to get drug deals and um, enhance their performance and put numbers on the board. And they really went out of their way to stifle my career. They were unsuccessful though, because being a black female and having the abilities and skills growing up in this culture and this environment, I was able to cold cut anybody and buy from anybody. So that made me valuable, a valuable asset. So other agencies were coming to the Meg office requesting me specifically, and they didn't like that either. So I worked all over the state of Illinois, with different agencies, doing drug intervention. And they didn't, I wasn't the nigger that I should be coming from K Town on the west side. I should have had a trough of children with babies, daddies, and drama, and just ghetto and ignorant in their eyes. And I learned early. My granddad used to always say, baby, they'll never know if you're a fool unless you open your mouth. So I would always be handling my business and quiet, but vocal when needed. So if someone tried to flex on me, one time my supervisor, Andy DeVry, he became the deputy director. He told me my perception of reality wasn't real. And I let him know, I asked him, I said, when did you get your psychological degree? When did you graduate? When did you become able to even evaluate such a thing? And he just didn't like how I was able to cut him down when he tried to cut me down. And they were just like, this nigger, she don't understand her place. And being from K-Town on the west side, we don't sell wolf tickets. And we don't do all of that hype. Because if we gonna get you, we gonna get you. And you just gonna be got. And that was it. And they didn't understand that at all. And by them being on the police department and having discriminated so long and discriminated against so many people, I guess they felt that the majority of the people that they screwed over, it was called a brick. So whoever they put the brick on would fold in the same way. So they felt that every black person would be the same way. And I just happened not to be that way. And I just kept doing, because I love my job, I just kept doing what I was there to do, no matter what they did. So I began to notice, and JD began to tell me that they were leaving me on drug deals, that we would, before any deal would happen, we would have meetings and we would have strategy. We would place people in strategic places. There would be signals. There would be one understanding. But little did I know that they were having secondary and third meetings about how they were not going to support me and how they were leaving me. So again, I would have to go into places on my own. They would end up having to be blocks away anyway, but much to my surprise, they would just leave and I would be there by myself and we would end up meeting after I came back up on the radio after doing the drug deal. So JD just made sure that he was on all my drug deals and I made sure that I was on all his drug deals. And this went on and on and on, and it began to escalate because I became more aggressive about fighting for what was rightfully something that I should be a part of, the training, the overtime. Even they were denying my vacations.